Hi, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. Very much appreciate it. This channel is about business. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about personal finance. It's about business finance. It's about real estate. And today I want to talk to the people. I want to talk to you if you're thinking about starting a business and you've been thinking about it and you say, oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, it will fail. Oh, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next life. And those who are afraid never succeed at anything in life. And timidity is not a virtue. So I'm going to talk about that. So I'm talking to you if you feel that way, that you want to start a business, but you don't think you could ever succeed at it. I'm going to give you some stories. I'm going to tell you some principles that you need to work on to make sure that when you start a business, you're going to be successful. And even if you're not, I'm going to tell you the advantage of failure in business. So let's start. I had a lot of businesses as a kid, and I did okay. I did pretty good, in fact, in a lot of cases. Sold tadpoles at school, made a ton of money selling tadpoles to fellow third graders or whoever it was. But in this particular case, I want to go really quick through a business I started to give you an example, okay? And the business I started was selling soda to construction workers. Now, I didn't start out with that idea. What I did was it was a summer, and I was about 12, 13, maybe 11, somewhere around there, that age group. And what I decided to do was I wanted to go out to a construction site that was close to my house. It was really cool. I really liked to watch the carpenters and the electricians and the plumbers, the roofers. I just thought this was just cool. And as long as I kept my distance, safe distance, they were happy. They didn't mind me watching. I learned a lot just by watching. But you know what happens in the middle of the summer in Philadelphia? It gets hot, man. You sweat like crazy. So I decided to go and get a soda from the Roach Coach. Now, what's a Roach Coach? Roach Coach is a catering truck. You know, they drive these big panel trucks, and then they stop. They beep their horn a couple times, and then they open up the side door, and it opens up. People line up, and they order what they need: donuts, coffee, soda, sandwiches, things like that. And I was thirsty, man. It's hot in Philadelphia in the middle of the summer. It's very humid. So I decided I was going to order a soda. So I went up there and I asked for a bottle of Coke, and I said, how much is it? And he said, 25 cents. And I said, whoa, 25 cents to a 12-year-old is a lot of money in the 60s. I said, no, thank you. I'm close to home. I'll go home and get my soda for free. So as I'm walking home, it dawns on me, you know something? I could beat this guy in his price, and I could beat with a different strategy. So I asked my dad, I said, Dad, can you take me to the beverage store? And they had a special beverage store. It's really cool, by the way. Just a quick note here. You drive up, it's sort of like going through McDonald's. You place your order, they collect the money, and then as you drive to the next station in the store, they would load up your trunk with what you ordered. So I ordered a case of soda. Paid for it with my own allowance money, which wasn't very much, but I bought a case of soda. Now, I went home, I got a ice chest, the ones you take picnics on and everything else. And they're really getting fancy these days, by the way. But I put all the sodas in there, I threw ice in there, and then I wrote little signs on the side of the wagon that, I think it was like 10 cents or 15 cents for a soda. I was going to undercut this big business guy who's driving around in his catering truck. And I'm going to do it without the overhead he has. So I went out. The next day, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I made sure I avoided the the catering truck. He was at one side of the complex, I was at the other. And I always made sure I was way ahead of him. So anyway, I started selling these Cokes, 10, 15 cents for a bottle of Coke. I sold out in no time at all. So I went back and I said, Dad, get me back to the beverage store. Went back and bought 2 cases at this point. And then did the same thing, and it seemed like every day after that for about a month, man, I was selling case after case of all, and then I got fancy, cream soda, ginger ale, not only Coke, but other things, and I sold all these sodas, and I was making bank, man. It was fantastic. Of course, I'm a kid, so I got tired of doing it after a while and decided to go do something else, but I made lots of money that summer. But some of the principles there apply to starting a big business, a serious business. Maybe not a big business, but starting serious business, okay? And the idea was that I didn't really invest that much into it. I already had the wagon. I already had the cooler, and to buy 25 bottles of Coke or whatever it was, it came in a little case. Back then it was a little wooden case with handles on either side. It was no big expense, and my time wasn't that big of a deal. So I didn't look at the ways it wouldn't work. I looked at the ways it would work, and it really worked out great for me. My friends never came up with ideas like this. But you know something? I didn't know how to manage my money because I spent all my money on all my friends and me. Going down to the local game store or whatever it was, that they had at the time. Pinballs, man, played a lot of pinballs back then. But the thing is you need to look for opportunities. And they don't have to be big opportunities. Sometimes people look for the big opportunities. They want to be the next Elon Musk. They want to do SpaceX, and they say, well, that takes billions of dollars. I don't have billions of dollars. Well, stop focusing on that stupid stuff, okay? It's not that he has a stupid idea, but you don't have the resources to do that. And I don't either. So think about the things you can do. Now, when I started Nova Voice and Data Systems many, many years ago, I ran it for 3 decades before I sold my database, my customer database, to a competitor. But when I ran it, I started out small. I didn't risk a lot. I had a full-time job, Burlington Air Express, IT department, and I would be working 8 to 10 hours a day. So I had a serious job. I was making serious money. But I'm not really a 9-to-5 type of person, okay? I'm really an entrepreneur. So I liked my boss. It was a good company to work for. It was a great company to work for. I loved them. They were good people. But I decided I need to do more in life, and I wanted to do cabling. I noticed a lot of people that were doing cabling for our company. I could do that stuff. I've already done that stuff. I've done my house. I've done other places. I know how to do cabling. So again, this is back in the 80s? Yeah, back in the 80s when I did this. So I decided, I was going to do it, and I was looking for opportunities. Now, I also decided that I was going to start with zero down. I was not going to invest any of my money in it. I'd invest time, but I'm not going to invest money. So I was sitting in the bank one time, and I listened to these 2 guys that were ahead of me in the line, eavesdropping, how rude that could possibly be. But I was listening to these 2 guys in line, and one guy was saying how he's having trouble finding someone to put in a phone jack, and that they were going to charge him lots of money at AT&T or local Bell South or whatever it was. And so I interrupted him. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry, I overheard some of your conversation. I can put that jack in for you." And he said, "You can?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How much?" I said, $50. And he said, "Absolutely." He gave me his address. I said, "I'll be there this afternoon, and I will take care of that." Now, that was presumptuous because I didn't have any tools. I knew how to use the tools, but I didn't have any tools of my own. So I went to a friend, and I borrowed the tools that are necessary to put that jack in. And I showed up at the place with the tools, his tool bag, my motivation, my experience, my skill, whatever. I showed up, and I put that jack into him, and he paid me $50. And you know something? I started a business that day, and I didn't spend a penny. And that's the best way to start a business. I don't care what other people say. Well, you got to have investments, you got to have, investors and stuff like that. Nonsense. The best way to learn how to run a business is start it from scratch. Start it from scratch, man. If you use your brain to figure out how to do it, that's what God gave you, a brain. Figure it out. How to start this business from scratch. If you do, you're going to learn a lot about how to start businesses. That's first of all. So, give you some examples of some small businesses that I saw that have been starting and people are making some decent money. Now remember, they're not going to be billionaires with these businesses. These businesses aren't going to go into a billionaire type of thing. I didn't run my little soda thing at 12 years old and expecting to make, $10,000. That wasn't going to happen. Now, did I make $1,000? I probably did. Probably a lot more than all my other friends. But the bottom line is there's other ways you can get started. And some people say, well, what other ways? How do I do? Well, use your head. Think it through. So I was just thinking the other day, I saw this kid, a teenager. I don't know how old he was. He was going to charge you $2 to bring your trash can out and put your trash can back. Now, I thought at first, well, he's not going to make much money. That's ridiculous. Just $2? That's it? And so what he did is he went around and he bought trash cans in and out. And I didn't at first think there was going to be a market for that. But then I have one of those short-term rental properties, and it's a real hassle, man. I have to drive from one end of town to the other end of town to take the trash out on trash day, because I tell you what, your renters aren't going to do it. I tried it, put up signs that said, please put the trash out on Thursday morning, and they never did it. So I had to put the trash out, and then I had to come back and put the empty trash can back in. Now this is where the genius was. It was not only $2 a trash can, but for an additional $5 a week, he'd come out and clean your trash can. He had a hose, he had a bucket, he had a mop type of thing, a sponge, and he'd clean it out. Now I was suggesting that maybe later on, after he got some money, he'd get a power washer and do it with a power washer. So he was making some decent money. He would not only put the trash can out, bring the trash can in, he would clean out the trash can, make it smell really great. Because you put those trash cans in the middle of the summer in your garage, and they have garbage at the bottom, it's going to stink up the house. And so it's really a good service. And it just came out with this idea. I never heard it before, and yet it was working for him. The other thing, and this is a really good idea, is pressure washing. I was in Leander last month, Leander, Texas, and as I was driving around, I saw these little signs, and the signs were like you see in election time. They're called yard signs. They're about this wide, about that high. They stick them in the grass, and they're made out of plastic and everything else. And a couple of them were advertising in intersections, and it would say something like, do you need some pressure washing or something to do with pressure washing? Give me a call. Here's my phone number. And so these guys are going around. I don't know, guys, kids, I don't know what it is. Teenagers. We're going around and pressure washing driveways. And what they would do is you call in, and they would say, where's your house? I'll come out and give you a quote on pressure washing your driveway. Clean it up. Get the dirt. Get the filth off your driveway, off your house, off of anything you want. And so these guys are going out, and they were cleaning up. So I also noticed, I was going through YouTube, like you go through YouTube, and you found this channel. There's actually a guy that has a pretty serious business in Europe where he's cleaning some of these buildings and all, and he's charging big bucks to clean some of these buildings with pressure washer. And when I was in Europe about a decade and a half ago, 2 decades, I kept on looking at these buildings saying, man, they're filthy dirty, some of these buildings, they need a pressure wash. And this guy came up with it. He's running a business. He's making some decent money, and he also tells you how to do it. So if you want to do the same thing, you can find him on YouTube, and that's pretty interesting. The idea is you try to start with nothing. So how do you do a pressure idea? And this is just an idea, okay? I'm not telling you should start a pressure washing company, but the idea is, how do you do it? Well, you can rent a pressure washer, from Home Depot and stuff like that. Now, the reason is why the name of my channel is Entrepreneurs with Trucks, not in trucks, with trucks. And the reason why I say that is because if you have a pickup truck, man, you can do a lot. There's a lot more openings for you to run a business. Now, I'm not saying quit your day job. I did not quit my day job to run my business. I didn't do that, didn't think about doing it, anything else. I wanted to keep my day job until my company, Nova Voice and Data Systems, had enough money that it could supplant my income from Burlington Air Express in the IT department there. And I had to keep track of things and make sure I paid attention. I did my research, by the way. Don't escape and thinking, well, I can just start something without doing your research. Do you need a license? It's not that big of a deal, man. A lot of these things are small hurdles, and you learn from them. And something I hear also is people say, well, I may fail. Well, great, you may fail, but you don't know unless you try. And something, failure is not that big of a deal when you're doing it the way I'm suggesting. And the reason why it's not that big of a deal is because you learn from failure. Every time you stand at home plate and someone throws you a pitch and you miss, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. In fact, if you don't try, you're a failure. That's the way I look at it. Try, fail, learn, try again. There it is. And don't be timid about it. Remember, timidity is not a virtue. It will actually hurt you in life. So don't worry about trying. But if you don't start, you're not going to try. And of course, you could always say, I've never failed at business. So sad that you would say that. The next thing I would suggest is get a mentor. Try to get people who have done it before you. I've always told my kids, I said, if you ever want to do something, there's a book written on it. Read the stupid book. Do your research and find out how other people have done it. Find out from their mistakes. There's a Bible verse. It says that wisdom stands on the corner and shouts to anyone that would listen to her. And I'm saying the reason why it says that is it's meant open your eyes, pay attention to what other people are doing, learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes. Don't be stupid enough to think that you're not going to fail, and don't be stupid enough that you're not learning from someone else's mistakes. So get a mentor. I got a mentor, a guy who helps me. He's not my official mentor. He's a friend. He's in real estate. He's been in real estate his whole life. He's a broker. He's an agent. He's run an agency. He's a great guy. He's older than me, in fact, so I can learn a lot from him. So I've been in real estate now for over 20 years, probably getting close to 25, buying houses and warehouses and things like that. So I always try to run things through him. If I have a question, I ask him, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he tells me his answers. And a couple of times I said, I never thought about that particular problem. And I said, that's really smart, man. You got some really good wisdom there. And he goes, excuse me, Jim, it's not wisdom. And I'd say, well, what is it? And he says, it's scar tissue. I've made the stupid mistake. Don't you make the same stupid mistake. That works for me, man. And so he teaches me. So do your research. Learn the laws. Learn what's involved. It doesn't mean if you have a little business where you're making, maybe a couple $100 a week that you have to have this big, corporation behind you and all the assets and everything else. Start with nothing. Research. Get a mentor. That's how you do it. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is failure is an option, and it's not necessarily bad. I know if you get the coaches in football and they say, failure is not an option, you got to win. Those who worship failure will fail. That's a bunch of nonsense for business, okay? You're going to make mistakes. Risk failure. Nothing worth doing doesn't have a risk to it of failure. So risk failure, realize you're going to learn from this failure, you get up and you start again. Now you notice I said start with nothing. Don't quit your day job and see how successful you can be with those two parameters. But I tell you what, if you sit there and you're scared to death of failure, you're never going to do anything in life. And remember that phrase. I've always said that to my adult children now. I told them when they were little, timidity is not a virtue. Don't be timid. Be aggressive. And if you fail, so what? And maybe some people laugh at you. The do-nothings laugh. The other people like me look at it and say, that guy really did a good job. He's really trying hard. I bet you he will be successful in the future because he's learning from his failures. So stop making excuses for yourself why you're not going to try something new. You're not going to try a business. Just try it, man. Just try to get first customer. It always starts with the first customer. My first customer I just talked about, that I fixed that jack on the wall. You know what that turned into years later? It turned into a multi-million-dollar national company. And yes, I really benefited from that, and it really worked well. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without trying. I would not be able to do that without some failures in the past on different issues and different things that I failed. But I am not afraid of failure, and you shouldn't be afraid of it either. Now, you shouldn't worship it. Yeah, I agree. But you know something? You give it the best shot you can and you fail, then you turn around and you learn from your failure and you do better next time. And if you keep on doing that, you're going to be successful at doing it. Now, everyone always, not everyone, but a lot of people talk about Elon Musk. He's billionaire, he's billionaire. Yeah, well, he slept in his office on the floor for many, many months because he couldn't afford an apartment. And so don't sit there and think that failure, if you're afraid to fail, you're never going to try anything. For crying out loud, get off your butt and try something. Failure is actually the way. You fail, you learn, you try again. You fail, you learn, you try again. You just keep on doing it. And pretty soon you get that wisdom that my friend talked about, my mentor, where he says, it's not wisdom, it's scar tissue. So the best way is to learn from other people's scar tissues, but if you don't learn from other people's scar tissues, then you're going to have some of your own. That's true, but don't be afraid of it. Get it going. Time is of the essence. You only have so many days on earth, you know. If you're thinking about starting a business, then get off your butt and start it. Do the research and do it, and stop complaining about the fact that nothing ever happens and you're going to go to a 9-to-5 job and you hate 9-to-5. We could talk forever on this subject, and I'm not going to do that. But failure is the way. How about that? That's a concept you need to think about. Don't get caught up in all those posters, you know, failure is not an option. Yeah, it's an option. You can fail, but so what? You learn from it. Thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Talk to you later.